Welcome to Sleepy Historian. You can listen quietly. You do not need to focus too hard. Nothing here moves quickly. Tonight, we are not following heroes. We are not tracing triumphs. We're simply staying awake long enough to understand how people endured something that arrived every single day and could not be avoided. The night, long before fire was common, long before sparks could be made on demand, long before warmth and light were guaranteed. The sun left and people remained. As daylight fades, the world does not disappear all at once. It thins, edges soften, colors drain slowly from the ground, the trees, the hills. The last warmth lingers briefly on skin, then withdraws without warning. For people living thousands of years ago, sunset was not a peaceful sight. It was a deadline. You would feel it first in the body. The air cooling faster than expected. The ground pulling heat away from your feet. The knowledge that what had been visible moments ago would soon be unreachable. There was no switch to flip, no flame to promise safety. Only the certainty that darkness was coming, and that it would stay for many hours. When fire existed, it was unreliable. It might have been carried from a distant source. It might have been stolen from lightning or guarded embers. It might go out without explanation. Most nights, there was nothing. You sit or crouch or lie down before the last light disappears. Not because you are tired, but because movement becomes dangerous when you can no longer see where your feet land. You choose a place that feels slightly less exposed. A hollow in the ground, the leeward side of a rock, the close presence of others. As the sky darkens, sound begins to replace sight. Wind moving through grass, insects starting their steady rhythms. Distant calls that do not need to be identified to cause unease. Without fire, there is no boundary between you and what moves beyond you. No circle of light to mark where safety ends. The darkness presses close, not as an event, but as a condition. You learn quickly that night is not something to defeat. It cannot be chased away. It cannot be shortened. It must be endured. The body responds by slowing down. Breathing becomes shallow, not from fear alone, but from instinct. Energy must be conserved. Every unnecessary movement steals warmth that will not return easily. There is no sense of time passing in the dark. No hours, no markers. Only the knowledge that dawn is far away and that the cold will deepen before it eases. People learn to listen instead of look. They learn to stay close without speaking. Children were pulled inward, placed between larger bodies where heat could be shared. The group became a single shape, barely moving. Sleep, when it came, was fragile. It arrived in fragments, a few minutes at a time. Dreams surfaced quickly and dissolved just as fast, interrupted by sounds or sudden awareness. Often, you wake and nothing has changed. The darkness remains complete. The cold has grown heavier. The waiting continues. This was not a rare hardship. It happened night after night, in every season, in every place where humans lived before fire became dependable. Some nights were quieter than others. Some nights brought rain or wind or distant howls. But all nights shared the same length, the same uncertainty, the same demand for patience. Survival did not come from courage. It came from restraint, from learning not to panic, from learning not to move, from learning to let time pass without fighting it. Fire, when it finally became common, would change this relationship forever. It would shorten nights. It would give shape to darkness. It would allow stories, tools, and warmth to exist after sunset. But before that, people survived in another way. They waited. They listened. They endured long hours where nothing improved, nothing resolved, and nothing could be done except remain alive until the light returned. Tonight, as you listen, you are stepping into one of those nights. There is no urgency here, no sudden danger, only the steady pressure of darkness and the quiet work of staying alive within it. The sun has already set. The night has begun. The sun does not disappear suddenly. It lowers itself slowly, as if testing how much light can be taken away before the world begins to resist. You notice the change first in temperature. The warmth that rested on your skin throughout the day thins, then slips away. Shadows stretch longer than expected. The ground darkens unevenly, holding on to heat in some places, surrendering it in others. There is no fire waiting for you. No promise that the coming night will be softened by flame. As the light fades, choices become fewer. Where you stand now matters. Where you sit will matter even more. You move carefully, not quickly. Running wastes energy. Hurrying invites mistakes. You search for a place that feels slightly protected, though you know protection will be incomplete. A shallow hollow, the side of a stone that blocks some of the wind. The nearness of others who will share the same darkness. Before the last light disappears, you lower yourself to the ground. Not because the day has exhausted you, but because standing offers no advantage once vision begins to fail. The earth beneath you is cool already. It draws warmth without asking. As the sun slips further, color drains from the landscape. The browns and greens of the day flatten into shades of gray. Distance becomes difficult to judge. Edges blur. Sound begins to replace sight. Insects emerge, their movements steady and indifferent. The wind carries unfamiliar noises from places you cannot see. A branch snaps somewhere beyond reach, and you cannot tell if it was the wind or something heavier. Without fire, there is no boundary between what is near and what is far. Everything exists in the same dark space. You become aware of your own breathing. It sounds louder now. You slow it, not out of fear but necessity. Warm breath is valuable. It should not be wasted. Others settle close by. There is no conversation. Words offer little help here. Movement slows, then nearly stops. Children are guided inward, not with urgency, but with practiced calm. They are placed where warmth can be shared, where bodies overlap just enough to reduce heat loss. No one complains. This arrangement is familiar. The final strip of light at the horizon narrows. For a brief moment, shapes are still visible in outline. Then even those disappear. Night arrives quietly. There is no signal to mark its beginning. No sound. No change in the wind. Only the sudden understanding that sight has ended. You sit with your hands drawn inward, fingers curled close to your chest. Exposed skin cools quickly now. Clothing, if you have it, is thin and imperfect. Animal skins trap some warmth, but not enough to relax. The ground presses cold through everything. Without flame, the night feels closer. It does not surround you from a distance. It settles directly against the body. You learn not to move unless necessary. Each shift of position exposes new skin to cold air. Each adjustment costs more warmth than it provides. Time begins to stretch. There are no stars visible tonight. Cloud cover has sealed the sky into a uniform darkness. The moon offers nothing. Listening becomes constant. Your attention moves outward, then inward again. Every sound is measured. Every silence examined. You cannot see predators, but you know they exist. Their world is not diminished by darkness. It is enhanced by it. Still, fear is controlled. Panic wastes energy. Panic invites mistakes. Instead, there is waiting. Minutes pass, or perhaps much longer. There is no way to know. The body begins to stiffen as muscles cool. Shivering starts lightly, then grows stronger. Shivering is not comfort. It is a warning. You pull closer to the ground, minimizing exposure. Others do the same. The group becomes a single, quiet shape pressed against the earth. Sleep does not arrive easily. Not yet. The mind remains alert, tracking sound, measuring cold, replaying the day that has ended. Eventually, exhaustion softens awareness. Thoughts slow. The darkness feels less sharp, though no less complete. You drift briefly, then wake again. The night has not changed. This is only the beginning. The first hours after sunset are often the easiest. The cold has not yet reached its deepest point. The body still remembers warmth. But the night is long, and there is no flame to shorten it. You settle again, preparing not for rest, but for endurance. Morning is distant. Survival, for now, means remaining still and waiting for time to move forward on its own. Once the night has fully settled, movement loses its usefulness. You learn this quickly. In daylight, shifting position brings relief. At night, it only reminds the body how cold it has become. Every small motion exposes skin that had begun, briefly, to retain warmth. The air touches it immediately and takes what little heat remains. So you become still, not rigid, but deliberate. You hold your body in a position that can be maintained without strain. Muscles loosen just enough to avoid cramping, but not enough to invite shivering. Listening replaces sight completely now. Without light, the world announces itself through sound. The soft, constant movements of insects fill the air, creating a background that never fully stops. Wind passes through grass and low branches in irregular patterns, sometimes steady, sometimes sudden. Each sound carries meaning, whether or not it can be understood. A scrape along the ground, a distant call, brief and unanswered. A heavier footfall that fades before it can be placed. You do not react immediately. Reaction costs energy. Instead, you wait for repetition. Stillness sharpens attention. With nothing else to do, the mind becomes sensitive to change. You notice when a sound breaks the pattern. You notice when silence lasts longer than expected. Others around you remain quiet as well. This silence is not enforced. It is learned. Speaking would add nothing. Words cannot improve the situation. They would only carry farther than intended, marking your presence in the dark. Children understand this early. They are guided gently into silence, not through fear, but habit. Small hands find familiar clothing. Breathing is encouraged to slow. In the absence of fire, even comfort must remain quiet. You become aware of your heartbeat. It seems louder now, pulsing against your ribs. You focus on steadying it, not because it threatens to be heard, but because calm conserves warmth. Time stretches again. Without stars or moonlight, there is no visual change to signal progress. The darkness remains complete and uniform. You cannot tell if an hour has passed or several. Listening fills the space where thought might wander. You catalog sounds without labeling them. You accept uncertainty without needing resolution. A sound moves closer, then stops. You do not move. If it passes, it passes. If it does not, movement would not have saved you anyway. The body adjusts gradually. The first sharp edge of cold dulls into something heavier, more constant. Fingers lose sensation at the tips. Toes pressed together inside thin coverings, seeking shared warmth. You keep your hands close to your core. Exposed fingers cool too quickly. Once numbness sets in, dexterity disappears, and with it the ability to respond. So you protect what you can. Listening becomes layered. Near sounds and far sounds separate themselves in the mind. The wind is recognized as background. Animal movement, when it occurs, feels distinct. Not alarming, simply noted. The group breathes together, though no one intends it. In stillness, rhythms align. Inhale, exhale. The night air carries scents faintly. Damp earth, old vegetation, something animal, briefly present then gone. Without sight, smell takes on new importance. It warns quietly, without urgency. Stillness also brings fatigue. Holding position for long periods taxes the body in subtle ways. Joints stiffen. Muscles ache from restraint rather than effort. Shifting would bring relief, but only briefly. You decide against it. Endurance, here, means choosing discomfort that does not worsen. Sleep brushes the edges of awareness. It does not arrive fully. You drift for moments at a time, then return to alertness without clear reason. Each waking feels the same. The darkness has not changed. The cold remains steady. Listening continues even in these half-dream states. Sounds weave into thoughts, then separate again. Somewhere nearby, someone adjusts slightly. The movement is minimal, practiced. No one speaks. The night is teaching its lesson slowly. To survive without fire, you must reduce yourself. Reduce movement. Reduce sound. Reduce expectation. You exist as quietly as possible, occupying little space, asking nothing from the dark. Stillness becomes its own kind of shelter. And as the night deepens, listening is all that connects you to the world beyond your skin. Sleep does not arrive the way it does in daylight. There is no easing into rest, no gentle release of the body. Instead, sleep appears briefly, without warning, then withdraws just as quietly. You do not lie down expecting to rest for long. You prepare only to close your eyes for a moment, knowing they will open again soon. The ground beneath you remains cold and unyielding. It pulls warmth steadily from your body, even as you try to remain still. No position feels entirely right. Every angle exposes something to the air. You tuck your chin toward your chest. Arms stay close to your sides. Legs draw inward, reducing surface area. This posture is not comfortable. It is simply the least damaging. When sleep comes, it does not deepen. It hovers close to the surface. Dreams form quickly, shaped by sound and cold rather than memory. A rustle becomes a presence. A distant call becomes a shape. The mind, deprived of sight, fills the darkness with quiet constructions. You wake without knowing why. Nothing has changed. The darkness is still complete. The cold has settled deeper into the body. The night feels heavier now, as though it has weight. You listen again. The world has not moved on without you. Insects continue their steady rhythm. Wind shifts direction slightly, then steadies. Sleep returns in fragments. A few minutes, perhaps more. There's no way to measure it. Each time you wake, the body feels stiffer. Joints protest restraint. Muscles ache not from effort, but from holding still for too long. Shivering returns, stronger now. It begins in the shoulders, then travels down the spine. You try to suppress it, knowing it wastes energy, but the body insists. Shivering is the last defense against the cold. It cannot be argued with. Others nearby shift subtly, responding to the same signals. A shoulder presses closer. A leg adjusts position just enough to share warmth. These movements are quiet and deliberate. They do not break the silence. They are part of the night's routine. Sleep and waking blur together. You are never fully unconscious. Some part of you remains alert, listening for changes, tracking sound. Even dreams feel cautious. In the dark, the passage of time becomes uncertain. You begin to lose track of how many times you have drifted and returned. The night feels endless, even though it is not. The cold reaches its deepest point before dawn, though you cannot know when that will be. You feel anyway. The air sharpens. Breath cools faster as it leaves your mouth. Fingers feel thick and unresponsive. You bring your hands closer, pressing them against warmer parts of your body. This helps briefly. Then the warmth fades again. Sleep comes once more, lighter than before. Thoughts repeat themselves without resolution. Simple phrases. Familiar images. Nothing demanding. The mind, like the body, is conserving energy. At some point, exhaustion outweighs vigilance. Your awareness dulls further. The darkness becomes less threatening. Not because it has changed, but because there is no strength left to respond to it. You drift longer this time. When you wake again, there is a subtle difference. Not light, not warmth, just a sense that the night has shifted. The air feels slightly less sharp. The silence carries a different quality. Somewhere far away, a sound changes its rhythm. Morning is not here yet, but it is closer than it was. You remain still. Even now, movement would cost more than it gives. You wait for the light to return on its own terms. This is how people slept before fire was common. Not deeply, not comfortably, but enough. Enough to remain alive through the longest hours. Enough to rise again when the darkness finally loosens its hold. Cold is not an enemy you can push away. It does not rush. It does not announce itself. It arrives quietly and stays, taking what the body gives without resistance. By the time the night has fully settled, warmth has already become scarce. What remains must be protected carefully. You feel it leaving first through the places farthest from the core. Fingers stiffen, toes lose definition, ears and nose grow numb without pain. There is no way to generate heat on your own for long. Movement creates warmth briefly, but costs energy that cannot be replaced in the dark. The body understands this balance instinctively, so you borrow warmth instead. You move closer to others, not suddenly, not openly, but with quiet familiarity. This closeness is not affection. It is necessity. Bodies press together where they can, shoulder to shoulder, back to chest, legs overlapping just enough to share heat without restricting circulation. Children are placed at the center, where warmth is most stable. Their smaller bodies lose heat faster. The group adjusts around them without discussion. Animal skins, if present, are pulled tighter. They trap some warmth, but they are thin, worn, imperfect. Wind finds its way through seams and edges. The ground remains the greatest thief. Even as bodies huddle together, the earth draws heat downward. It does not matter how still you remain. The exchange continues. You try to reduce contact with the ground where possible. A folded skin beneath the hip. A shift that places bone against muscle instead of soil. These adjustments are slow and careful. Nothing is rushed. Rushed movement wastes what little warmth has been gathered. Breathing becomes shallow again. Long exhales carry heat away. You shorten them without thinking. The cold sharpens senses briefly, then dulls them. Pain fades into pressure. Pressure fades into absence. This absence is dangerous. When feeling disappears, awareness follows. You rely on routine to prevent this. Hands remain tucked. Feet stay pressed together. Posture remains curled inward. The group breathes as one again. Heat circulates between bodies in small exchanges. No one becomes warm. They become less cold. Listening continues, but it has softened. The mind turns inward now, monitoring sensation rather than sound. Cold becomes the dominant presence. You notice when someone nearby shifts slightly. Not because it makes noise, but because the shared warmth changes. A shoulder moves away. A leg pulls back. These changes are corrected gently. The arrangement returns. No one speaks. There is no need. The cold deepens before dawn. This is always the hardest part. The body's reserves are lowest. The night feels longest. Shivering returns in waves. You allow it briefly, then try to calm it. Too much shivering exhausts muscles. Too little allows heat to vanish unchecked. This balance is learned over many nights. Sleep, when it comes now, is heavier but shorter. The body shuts down sections of awareness to preserve energy. You drift, then surface again. Each time you wake, you check the same things. Hands, feet, breathing. As long as these remain, the night can be endured. Somewhere nearby, someone does not shift again. They remain very still. No one reacts. Stillness does not always mean danger. Sometimes it means rest that should not be disturbed. The night continues regardless. Borrowed warmth is never enough, but it is enough to last. Enough to prevent the cold from winning quickly. Enough to reach the next change in the dark. You remain pressed into the group, conserving what little heat remains. The body has done all it can do. Now, survival depends on patience. The middle of the night is not a moment. It is an expanse, a stretch of time that seems to have no beginning or end. By now, the cold has settled into every corner of the body that is exposed. Hands and feet have lost their sharp edges of sensation. They are dull, numb, and heavy. The muscles ache not from labor, but from the persistent demand of staying still and holding warmth. The ground has taken what it will, and the air has claimed the rest. Borrowed warmth circulates slowly through bodies pressed together, enough to delay suffering, never to erase it. You become aware of how precious every movement is. Each adjustment consumes heat. Each shiver steals energy. Every shift in posture is weighed carefully. Even breathing carries a cost. Time is marked only by slight changes in sensation. The wind shifts direction. A faint animal sound appears and vanishes. The moonlight, when present, moves imperceptibly across the terrain. Otherwise, nothing tells you that the night continues to unfold. The mind begins to oscillate between alertness and drifting. You drift, then awaken. You notice the body shivering and wake again. You watch the small figures around you move subtly. Each adjustment is a silent negotiation between warmth and stillness. Children are restless at times. Even when huddled in the center, their small bodies demand attention. A leg moves slightly, a hand brushes against yours. You adjust instinctively, sharing heat without speaking. Noise is minimal. Even small sounds carry far in the night. The world beyond your cluster remains present, though invisible. Predators may roam, though you never see them. Wind sweeps past, scraping against the earth and moving leaves like whispers. You pay attention to nothing in particular, and yet everything. Your mind begins to note patterns. The timing of your own breathing, the order of small noises, the repetition of shivers, the slow and predictable drain of energy. Even these small observations feel important. They are reminders that you are alive. They are ways to measure endurance. Minutes stretch into hours, though you cannot say how many. You do not try. Time has no meaning in darkness. Sleep is only a surface layer now. Brief moments of unconsciousness are overlaid with awareness of cold, presence, and waiting. Dreams intrude, but they are fragmented. They follow the rhythm of the night, not the day. Your body responds with subtle adaptation. Muscles stiffen into positions that conserve heat. Shivering becomes cyclical, starting and stopping as if regulated by some internal clock. You accept it. You have no choice. The body is patient, though not comfortable. You have become patient, too, by necessity. Every instinct that demands activity must be ignored. Energy must be preserved. Alertness must be selective. Nearby, others show the same pattern. Some drift briefly into deeper unconsciousness. Some remain half awake, shifting slightly, curling inward, pressing closer to shared warmth. The group becomes an organism moving subtly as one. Listening continues. Wind, animals, insects, and distant terrain remain audible. The brain interprets these sounds, sometimes as patterns, sometimes as random noise. There is no need to react, only to notice. Small degradations accumulate. Fingers grow stiffer. Toes remain unresponsive for longer. The neck aches from the lack of motion. Breathing becomes shallow automatically, conserving heat. Even hunger is now secondary. The body is focused first on warmth and survival. Digestion slows. Energy is rationed internally. Some part of you begins to accept that this is not a temporary state. The night has no edge, no limit visible from where you lie. It will end only in its own time. Occasionally, a faint sound will startle the group. Perhaps a branch snapping. Perhaps an animal moving nearby. Perhaps the shifting of one body among many. Each time, you respond minimally. Movement only if necessary. Words never. Silence is learned. It is more protective than any fire, more reliable than any animal companion. It becomes a method of endurance. The hours feel like they stretch infinitely. The cold remains constant, yet changes subtly in intensity. Your skin adapts to numbness, but your mind never rests fully. Every sound, every shift, every inhalation is noted, even unconsciously. The night teaches restraint. It teaches that survival does not mean victory. It means preservation, sustaining the smallest possible living condition until the first faint edge of morning. At some point, the night seems to weigh on the body itself. The air feels heavier. Muscles protest quietly. Even breath feels slow to circulate warmth. You settle once more into the least demanding posture. You curl inward, protect exposed skin, close your eyes for a brief moment. Sleep comes and goes, brief, shallow, fragmentary. When you wake, nothing has changed, and yet you endure longer. This is the middle of the night. It is not dramatic. It is steady. It is endless in sensation, and yet it is bearable in practice. You measure progress in fragments. A pause between shivers, a fleeting sense of warmth returned, the absence of noise. Not in hours, not in minutes, only in small, internal observations. The body becomes efficient. It does not move unnecessarily. It does not react unnecessarily. Every adjustment is deliberate. By the end of these hours, exhaustion feels heavier than the cold, but endurance continues. The night is still before you, and you remain alive. The cold is patient. It does not hurry. It does not make mistakes. It teaches slowly, without words. By now, your body has grown accustomed to discomfort. Fingers and toes are almost numb. The skin has lost sharpness of sensation, replaced with dull pressure. The muscles ache from restraint. Even breathing feels deliberate, measured, controlled. And yet, you are alive. The night continues its steady work. Time passes in imperceptible increments. The wind shifts slightly. A faint sound appears and disappears. Your mind notices. The body reacts minimally. Cold teaches patience. It reminds you that energy is finite. That movement costs warmth. That every choice, no matter how small, carries consequences. You adjust posture again, subtly, curling inward where warmth is strongest. Hands pressed against the chest. Feet tucked beneath bodies. The group shifts collectively, like a single organism, each movement precise and efficient. Sleep arrives briefly, but never deeply. It hovers, light and cautious, fragile against the demands of the night. You drift, then wake. The darkness has not changed. The cold has not changed. And yet, you continue. Even in this discomfort, you find patterns. The small movements of others, the rhythm of the wind, the distant, faint sounds of life beyond your group. These patterns become reassurance. They confirm presence. They confirm survival. The cold also teaches awareness. Every minor sound is noted. Every shadow in the mind is accounted for. Your senses sharpen without effort, guided only by necessity. You notice the subtle exchange of heat between bodies. A shoulder pressed closer. A child nestled more deeply at the center. Hands brushing briefly against one another. Each micro-movement carries significance. And yet, there is no comfort in warmth. It is borrowed. It is fleeting. It delays suffering without removing it entirely. The body conserves energy. Muscles stiffen to retain heat. Shivering comes and goes in cycles, regulated unconsciously. Even breath slows. Each exhalation a small loss of precious warmth. The mind, too, becomes efficient. It occupies itself with small observations. The pattern of shivering, the rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, the subtle shifts of bodies around you. There is no panic. There is no drama. Only steady endurance. The cold acts as a teacher of endurance, of patience, of restraint. It shapes you without words. It imposes lessons that cannot be ignored. You notice the group's collective behavior. Each movement is mirrored and complemented by others. Heat flows where is needed. No one is idle. Everyone contributes without intent. The night's pressure enforces this order naturally. Time has no meaning. Minutes, hours, or the passing of darkness cannot be measured. You only know when the cold intensifies, when shivering returns, when warmth is temporarily regained. The body adapts, unconsciously, to maintain the delicate balance between survival and expenditure. Muscles hold, joints resist cramping. Posture conserves as much warmth as possible. Even small adjustments are made deliberately, carefully. Sleep, when it comes now, is partial. Dreams are fragments, influenced by sound and sensation rather than memory or imagination. A branch falls in the distance, an insect moves near, and awareness returns. Consciousness floats in fragments like small boats on an endless dark sea. The night presses on. Lessons emerge slowly. Patience, attention, endurance. The cold reminds you that survival does not require heroism. It requires calm, steady responses, and a careful balance of energy. Eventually, faint relief comes. Perhaps the wind drops slightly. Perhaps the bodies around you settle into an arrangement that maximizes warmth. Perhaps nothing changes at all. Even then, the night continues, unyielding. You accept it. The cold does not ask for understanding. It only exists, and your body and mind learn, through repetition and observation, how to coexist. Morning is still distant, yet the night's lessons have accumulated. You understand more about your body, your senses, your group, your environment. You have survived quietly, without drama, without flame. And when light finally approaches, when the first sliver of dawn begins to thin the darkness, it will not feel like a victory. It will feel like the slow accumulation of endurance, an acknowledgement of patience, a testament to the quiet strength that darkness and cold can instill. The night stretches behind you, long and unbroken. Its lessons are etched into every part of your body. Fingers stiff, toes numb, Muscles sore from hours of stillness. You do not rise yet. You wait, as you have waited all night, for the world to shift imperceptibly. And then it begins. A subtle change in the darkness. Not light, not color, not warmth. Only a slight thinning of the night's weight. A small easing of tension in the air. You notice it first in your mind. The patterns you have been monitoring, the wind, the distant sounds, the subtle shivers, seem different. There is a hint of movement beyond the small circle of bodies pressed together. The night has begun to release its hold, ever so slightly. You do not move quickly. Movement still costs warmth. The earth beneath remains cold. Shifting abruptly would only undo the careful balance you have maintained. The children, still nestled at the center, breathe steadily. Their bodies seem lighter now, though still delicate and dependent on the warmth shared around them. You adjust minimally, pressing closer, making sure that the borrowed heat is preserved. A faint sound reaches your ears. It is not a bird, not yet. Perhaps the movement of air passing over frost-hardened ground, or perhaps a small animal stirring in the distance. Either way, it is gentle, insignificant, but noticeable in the quiet that has dominated for hours. You watch for changes in others around you. Some shift slightly, stretching slowly, careful to conserve what warmth remains. The group moves together as if guided by instinct. Each micro-adjustment ensures survival continues uninterrupted. The cold is not gone. It lingers stubbornly, gripping exposed skin, pulling warmth into the ground. But the mind recognizes the promise of change. The body, weary from hours of endurance, allows hope to settle lightly. Light has not yet reached the horizon. The sky remains a deep, desaturated gray, heavy with the residue of night. Yet in that gray, the edges of the world feel softer. Shapes are no longer completely abstract. Contours emerge faintly, revealing what has been invisible for hours. Breath begins to carry a warmer tone. Not warmth in the absolute sense, but a shift that is perceptible. A reminder that the world is moving slowly, inexorably toward the day. You consider your own body. Shivering has lessened. Muscles, though sore, are slightly more flexible. Fingers regain minimal dexterity, toes a hint of sensation. The earth is still cold, yet the body has adjusted, anticipating the slow return of light and warmth. The group responds as a unit. Movement is cautious. A shoulder rolls. A hip shifts. A child stretches gently within the protective circle of adults. No words are spoken. There is no need. The world is still quiet, but it carries the weight of impending change. Time feels almost measurable, though not precisely. You sense it in the rhythm of breath, in the pulse of small movements, in the subtle difference in air. You reflect on the night just past. Its lessons are apparent in retrospect. Patience, restraint, attention to small details, reliance on others for survival. You survived without fire, without sudden action, without the drama of visible danger. The night demanded endurance. You delivered, and now the edge of dawn arrives, not with light, but with possibility. The cold, while persistent, is no longer absolute. The night no longer has the same authority over movement and sensation. Every breath carries a fraction more warmth. Every micro shift brings a small measure of relief. You prepare to rise, though still slowly. The body must be coaxed into motion. Muscles protest, but they remember the careful patterns of the night. The mind instructs each part individually, methodically, with patience. You observe the horizon, though it remains dim. Contours of terrain are faint, yet visible. The world is vast, silent, and waiting. It will continue whether you move or stay, whether the cold continues or begins to wane. Slowly you sit upright. The earth is still cold beneath you, yet your posture allows for slight circulation of warmth. Hands pressed lightly together, feet tucked inward. The children remain nestled in the circle, rising with careful guidance. You breathe deeply, noting the small exchanges of warmth that occur naturally as bodies adjust. The night has passed, not with triumph, not with celebration, but with quiet persistence. The edge of dawn teaches a different lesson. It is not sudden. It is gradual. It requires patience as much as the night did, observation as much as action, endurance as much as rest. And you realize, as you sit quietly, that survival has always been about small movements, tiny adaptations, measured responses, and a relentless awareness of what matters. The night without fire has shown you this clearly. The first signs of light will come slowly. Shadows will shift. Cold will lessen incrementally. The day will arrive in stages, each fraction imperceptible unless observed carefully. You remain seated for now, allowing the world to change around you. You have endured the longest night, and you are ready to continue. The first light of dawn has not yet warmed the earth, but it signals permission to move. The night's strict rules are no longer absolute. Still, movement is slow, deliberate, measured, and minimal. You shift slightly, testing the ground beneath you. It is hard, cold, unyielding. Even as the body protests, you adjust. Muscles stiff from hours of stillness resist at first, then relent as small movements circulate warmth. The group begins to mirror these cautious motions. Shoulders roll, hips shift. Children stretch slowly within the protective circle of adults. No words are spoken, none are needed. Movement itself is language, precise and deliberate. Hands pressed together, kneading warmth back into fingers. Feet rub against each other gently, seeking circulation without expending too much energy. Every adjustment is minor, every motion purposeful. The cold has not left entirely. Its presence lingers, a quiet reminder of the night that just passed. Each breath carries a chill. Each gust of wind tests patience. Yet even this reminder is tolerable now, softer than before. The first movements are more than physical. They are a rehearsal, a negotiation between endurance and comfort. The body tests its limits gradually, aware that energy is still precious. Each motion that costs too much warmth or effort is abandoned. Each motion that conserves or recovers is repeated, reinforced. The children are guided carefully. A small hand is taken and positioned closer to warmth. A shoulder shields a shivering torso. Even the tiniest adjustments become critical acts of survival. Slowly, the group uncurls. Legs extend, torsos rise fractionally, heads lift, but never fully. Movement is careful, almost imperceptible, maintaining the protective configuration that has preserved warmth through the long night. You notice the small details that indicate life has survived. A faint flush returns to a cheek. Fingers regain a trace of sensation. Breath moves more freely, carrying small bits of internal warmth outward. The world beyond the group is still muted, gray, and heavy with frost, yet the sense of progression is palpable. The night is ending in increments you can measure only through awareness, through touch, through shared micro-movements. Even the wind seems to shift in tone. Its gusts no longer strike sharply. They whisper instead, brushing past the ground and the bodies in a gentler rhythm. You notice unconsciously cataloging, absorbing this new pattern. Eyes, long accustomed to darkness, begin to perceive faint contrasts. Contours of the frost-laden earth emerge subtly. Rocks, low vegetation, uneven ground. These shapes appear gradually, like a painting slowly revealed. The mind accepts them quietly, without surprise, without urgency. The first movements are also mental. You assess the body, the group, the environment. You remember lessons from the night. Stillness, listening, borrowing warmth, patience. Now, these lessons are applied to action. Not with haste, not with drama, but with precise, measured intent. Every micro shift carries risk. Too sudden, and energy is lost. Too little, and circulation slows. Too much, and cold creeps back into extremities. Balance is critical. Each person acts as part of a quiet, coordinated organism. The first light that brushes the horizon is symbolic rather than tangible. It signals the end of isolation, not the end of danger. The cold remains. The ground is still unforgiving. But the structure of survival, learned through long night hours, guides each step. You notice how fatigue now blends with cautious relief. Muscles ache from both stillness and movement. The body is aware of its limits and respects them. Shivering diminishes but does not vanish. Every breath is deliberate, every shift intentional. Children respond instinctively. They stretch, testing movement, guided gently by those around them. Heat exchanges subtly shift, favoring recovery over conservation now. The microcosm of survival reorganizes naturally, quietly. Your mind begins to reorient itself to a world that is slowly becoming visible. Shapes, contours, textures. The environment asserts itself gently, never abruptly. Your awareness widens incrementally, absorbing detail without strain. The night's lessons persist: patience, attention, endurance, observation. By the time the sun is hinted on the horizon, the first movements have allowed small warmth to return, muscles to loosen, and the mind to regain a sense of space and proportion. Nothing is celebratory. Nothing is dramatic. There is no triumph, only the careful, incremental restoration of function and awareness. The night has been survived. The day has begun cautiously, and you move forward one measured step at a time. The first steps are quiet, measured, calculated. They are neither eager nor joyful, for there is still much to be endured. Yet they are the most significant movements since the long night began. You rise fully, slowly, one limb at a time, testing strength and warmth. The ground is cold beneath your feet. Every step requires attention, lest muscles falter or balance fail. The body, conditioned by stillness and endurance, responds with caution. Those around you follow in similar fashion. Each step mirrors the lessons of the night. Every movement is deliberate, conserving energy while reclaiming circulation. Children cling to adults, guided carefully, yet encouraged to use their own small strength. The wind, still cold, brushes against exposed skin. It carries remnants of the night. Frost, dampness, quiet. It is gentler now, less demanding, easier to bear. You notice it without alarm. It is part of the day beginning, not a threat to survival. Each movement reminds you of your body's limits. Muscles ache, joints protest. Every step must be measured against energy reserves. The night's endurance continues into motion. It has not ended. It has shifted. You feel the gradual return of warmth to your extremities. Hands regain some dexterity. Fingers flex with purpose. Feet press against the frost-hardened ground with awareness, testing each contact. Even small gains feel substantial after the long hours of immobility. The children attempt steps of their own. Tiny legs wobble, then straighten. Small arms stretch outward. They're guided, yes, but allowed autonomy in these first movements. Their confidence grows slowly, the body relearning balance and control. The group as a whole moves forward together, a cautious procession. No one is left behind. Every step respects the fragility of bodies emerging from hours of stillness. The earth is still harsh, yet navigable. It does not change to accommodate them. Instead, they adapt. Each breath carries a small amount of warmth outward, yet also brings energy back in. The body, long trained in restraint, begins to operate with minimal expenditure, recovering slowly. Shivering is minimal now, replaced by gentle muscle flexing. The cold still exists, but its dominance has waned. The first steps are also mental. You assess terrain, ground stability, distance to resources, proximity to others. Awareness expands beyond immediate physical survival to navigation and planning. The mind, sharpened by night-long observation, notices patterns invisible to the untrained eye. Frost patches, wind direction, shadows, animal tracks. There is no hurry. The group does not rush. There is no heroism in speed. Every movement is a negotiation between endurance and progress. Forward is important, but not at the cost of the fragile equilibrium regained from the night. You feel the subtle coordination of the group. One body leads slightly, another follows, adjusting automatically. Micro movements, almost imperceptible, communicate balance and timing. They're the silent language of survival, built over hours of shared endurance. The cold that once dominated every sensation has become a teacher rather than a tyrant. Its lessons remain in every step: patience, observation, shared warmth, energy management. You move with respect for these lessons, carrying them forward into action. The frost-laden ground crunches beneath feet, softly, deliberately. Sounds are minimal but significant. Every noise is noted. Every subtle environmental cue informs movement. You have learned the value of awareness. It continues to guide each footfall. As steps lengthen, balance returns. The body relearns coordination. The mind anticipates every challenge the terrain presents. The first movements are slow, but momentum grows gradually, organically, without drama. Children wobble and recover, guided by adults, experiencing small triumphs in each step. Their confidence, so recently fragile, strengthens with subtle repetition. They mirror the adult's caution, absorbing lessons without instruction. The smallest successes carry immense psychological weight after the night endured. The world itself feels different now. Shadows recede with the coming light. Contours of terrain become clear. The wind carries sound differently. Distant trees, rocks, and terrain features slowly emerge from darkness. Movement is no longer simply survival. It is discovery, observation in motion. The first steps are a testament to quiet endurance. They mark the transition from passive survival to controlled engagement with the environment. Each forward motion carries with it the memory of the night, its stillness, its lessons, its patient oppression. You do not feel triumphant. You do not celebrate. Instead, there's a calm acknowledgement of capability. You are alive. You can move. You can endure what comes next. The group continues together, each step measured, deliberate, and silent. The night has ended not with excitement, but with persistence. The cold, the darkness, the waiting, they have taught you everything necessary for these first steps. The body, mind, and group are aligned in subtle, quiet coordination. You move forward slowly, steadily, deliberately, one step at a time. The first steps have been taken. The day is beginning. Evening arrives differently from night. It does not carry the same sharpness of fear. It arrives quietly, imperceptibly, like a shadow stretching across the land. The light softens, not with warmth, but with a slow withdrawal, leaving the world in muted tones. You gather what little is available for the evening meal. Food is simple, sparse, and often repetitive. Roots, dried meat, berries, whatever the day has provided or allowed for collection. The act of eating is quiet, deliberate. Each bite is measured. Chewing slowly to preserve energy, digest gently, and avoid waste. There is no rush. The sun is low. Shadows lengthen across the uneven ground, reaching across bodies, emphasizing small movements, subtle gestures, and the care with which food is handled. The shared silence feels natural, almost expected. No one speaks. No one needs to. The act of eating together becomes a ritual, not a social one, not celebratory, a necessity of endurance. To eat without error is to extend survival, to borrow more time from an indifferent world. The body reacts as it has throughout the day. Muscles relax slightly after the cautious walking, only to stiffen again in preparation for the night. The energy gathered from a meal is not immediate warmth but subtle restoration, a reservoir that will be spent slowly in coming hours. You notice the smallest details. How the light catches the curve of a child's shoulder. How the wind passes through low vegetation. How the skin of an adult glints faintly under frost-coated ground. Hands pass food with care. No one spills. No one moves abruptly. Each micro-motion is precise, conserving energy while distributing nourishment. The group functions as a single organism, quietly attentive, attuned to each member's needs. Conversation is absent. Language would distract, require energy, and break the rhythm of collective survival. Instead, understanding is conveyed through gestures, glances, and shared motions. A shift in posture communicates readiness. A brief pause communicates caution. The act of eating is a silent negotiation between survival and comfort. Time continues in its imperceptible march. The shadows lengthen. The temperature begins to drop. The ground absorbs what little warmth remains. The body adapts again, muscles tense subtly, hands tucked near the chest, legs curl inward. The meal is brief in comparison to the long night ahead. It is sustenance, not pleasure. Each mouthful becomes a quiet victory, an assertion against the slow encroachment of cold. After eating, the bodies settle into positions that maximize retained warmth. Animal skins are drawn closer. Feet are tucked under bodies. Hands are pressed together, chest to chest, sharing heat where possible. Children occupy the center, shielded, supported by those around them. Silence grows heavier as darkness approaches. No one speaks. Even thought becomes quiet, measured. The mind cycles between observation and internal monitoring, warmth, energy, readiness. Each breath is deliberate, each micro-adjustment intentional. The body begins its slow descent towards stillness. Muscles that were active during the day now relax, resisting stiffness only minimally. Shivering comes and goes, waves of energy expended, then conserved. Each microcycle of motion is part of a careful balance, designed to prolong survival, to stave off the inevitable withdrawal of warmth and energy that night will demand. You notice fatigue as a new presence. It presses into the shoulders, seeps into the joints, spreads across the back. It is not debilitating, not yet, but it demands recognition. Acknowledgement of limits is essential. Ignoring it risks energy wasted, temperature lost, endurance compromised. The shared silence encourages reflection. The night ahead is inevitable. The cold will return. The ground will remain unforgiving. The air will sap heat from exposed skin. But now, with sustenance consumed, bodies aligned, and attention focused, endurance can be managed deliberately. The small rituals of evening, eating slowly, pressing close, observing the fading light, become methods of survival. They occupy the mind without demanding excess energy. They guide movement without haste. They allow for preparation without panic. The subtle changes in the environment are noted. Wind direction, sound of distant animals, shift of shadows, faint crests of frost forming. These details are absorbed unconsciously, reinforcing a sense of presence while conserving energy. The children, still nestled in the circle, begin to relax. They stretch slightly, test the support of those around them, press hands to shared warmth. The adults respond with minor adjustments, redistributing heat without speaking, without haste. Time slows, measured only by the subtle progress of the sun toward the horizon and the growing chill in the air. Movement diminishes. The world narrows to the immediate circle of bodies. Endurance becomes a rhythm. Conserve, monitor, adjust, conserve again. Even hunger fades into the background. Energy is now dedicated to retaining warmth, maintaining awareness, and preparing for the long hours that remain. The body recognizes the routine, the night's inevitability, the continuity of endurance. The final light of the day fades. Shadows lengthen to the maximum. The earth, cold and unyielding, draws heat from every contact. The body contracts again, curling inward, pressing toward shared warmth. Silence becomes absolute, punctuated only by subtle breaths, the faint rustle of clothing, and the occasional shiver. In this silence, the night feels endless even before it begins. Yet the body has adapted, learned the patterns, borrowed warmth when possible, conserved energy, and prepared. The cycle of survival continues, as it always has, with measured attention, deliberate restraint, and shared presence. Evening meals, shared silence, and a gradual slowing of the body are more than acts of survival. They are preparation, rehearsal, and meditation, quiet acknowledgement that endurance requires not only strength but patience. Every gesture, every micro-movement, every measured breath carries weight. The night will demand it all, and you will give it willingly because survival is a quiet, patient discipline learned one slow evening at a time. Evening carries a subtle shift from the quiet of the meal. The body, having slowed for consumption and shared warmth, now enters a phase of minimal activity. Energy is precious, and every movement is weighed against necessity. The chores of evening are few but essential. Materials must be gathered: twigs, dried branches, perhaps remnants of a day's collection. Every motion is deliberate. Hands bend, lift, and release with careful precision. No sudden movements. The cold is still present, still patient, observing. Fire, if present, requires tending. Even a small spark consumes attention. Its warmth is limited, fleeting, yet critical. The flames lick gently at dry wood, casting long, flickering shadows. You adjust embers, coax heat upward, and ensure smoke does not overwhelm the bodies nearby. Each action carries awareness. The mind notes wind direction, the dryness of fuel, the placement of skins around the group. Each choice, no matter how small, conserves energy or warmth. Mistakes are silent penalties. Extra exertion, lost heat, discomfort multiplied. Children remain nearby, watching, learning. Some assist in tiny ways, passing small sticks, holding skins for others, mimicking movements without risk. Their motions are unhurried, reflecting the rhythm of survival observed since the night began. Observation is as valuable as action. The group functions as a single organism. Adults coordinate without speech. One adjusts a covering, another shifts a log in the fire. A third ensures that small gaps in the shelter are filled. Movements are complementary, almost choreographed, yet entirely instinctive. Even in chores, silence dominates. Words would disrupt concentration, waste energy, break the subtle communication that has carried survival through night and day. Gesture and attention suffice. A glance indicates readiness. A pause confirms safety. The body, though moving, continues to slow internally. Muscles flex to maintain circulation but resist fatigue. The heart beats steadily, measured, conserving energy. Breathing is calm. Each inhalation and exhalation controlled. Even small exertions are balanced against endurance. Firelight casts long shadows, but warmth is uneven. Proximity determines survival in these moments. Those closer to flames share its heat. Those farther must rely on borrowed warmth from the group, supplemented by careful positioning and clothing. Attention is constant. Every adjustment matters. The cold presses at edges not touched by fire. Fingers exposed during chores begin to stiffen. Noses redden in subtle cycles. The body accommodates slowly, moving just enough to prevent circulation from stalling, but not enough to expend energy unnecessarily. Chores conclude gradually. Logs arranged, skins positioned, breath steady. The body begins to fold inward again, anticipating the night. Even as hands relax, the muscles remain lightly engaged. Alertness persists. Fire, once coaxed, becomes a companion rather than a tool. Its warmth is shared but limited. Shadows dance across the small human cluster, creating movement without action, noise without energy. It is both reassurance and reminder. The world remains cold, but survival continues. Sitting close, bodies curl inward. Muscles that worked during chores now release tension slowly. Shivering returns in small waves, briefly, then fades as warmth circulates between bodies. Hands are pressed to chests, feet tucked under. Children remain central, protected. Evening is not a period of rest entirely. It is preparation, a rehearsal of stillness and observation. The body, mind, and group transition from minor activity to deliberate stasis, learning patience once more. Time seems to stretch. Shadows grow longer. Wind brushes against exposed skin. The fire flickers, consuming slowly. Each breath is measured. Each shift is deliberate. Endurance is maintained. The smallest movements are meaningful. Adjusting a skin, repositioning a child, leaning slightly to conserve heat. The mind notes micro changes in wind, temperature, and surrounding terrain. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes to the quiet persistence that survival demands. Night approaches with inevitability. Firelight diminishes as fuel is expended. The group settles closer together. Silence deepens. Muscles release tension gradually, the body folding inward, conserving every ounce of warmth. Evening chores, once essential for basic survival, now function as ritual. They mark the transition from activity to preparation for the longest hours ahead. Each gesture, each micro-movement, each breath carries weight, teaching the lessons of patience, observation, and restraint. The body begins to feel heavy. Joints ache slightly. Muscles protest softly, reminders of the hours spent in measured motion. Yet the mind remains alert, aware, observing. The night will return. The cold will press again. But this preparation has strengthened endurance, sharpened awareness, and preserved energy. The human cluster becomes a single, quiet organism once more. Bodies press close, sharing warmth, breathing in rhythm. Hands and feet tucked inward. Children sheltered at the center. The fire reduced to embers, flickering faintly. Shadows lengthen further, stretching into the unseen, desaturated terrain. Silence is complete. The night is near. The body, mind, and group are ready. Preparation, observation, minimal movement, and shared warmth ensure that endurance will persist. Evening chores have concluded, not with ceremony, but with measured, silent efficiency. The long cycle repeats. Movement, stillness, observation, adjustment. The body learns, the mind adapts. Survival continues quietly, deliberately, without drama or haste. Night falls gradually, as if the world itself is easing into darkness. Not sudden, not abrupt. The light retreats slowly, leaving the landscape in muted gray tones. Shadows lengthen across frost-laden ground. The air grows still, though cold persists, pressing gently against exposed skin. The fire is reduced to embers, low and steady, providing minimal warmth. Its glow is soft, fragile, enough to guide eyes and hands without disturbing the quiet. The group clusters around it instinctively, bodies pressed together, children at the center, adults forming a protective barrier. Every movement is careful, small, deliberate. Exertion is measured against endurance, conserving precious energy for the long hours to come. The day's minor tasks are done. Evening chores, fire maintenance, and meals have concluded. Now comes the time of reflection, internal reckoning with what has passed and what lies ahead. Silence dominates, unbroken. It is not oppressive. It is contemplative, a companion to the slow descent of night. You notice the smallest details. The faint glint of frost on raised rocks. The subtle bend of low shrubs in the wind. The rhythm of breath from those around you. Each inhalation and exhalation a shared signal of survival. Your body begins to fold inward. Muscles relax gradually. Joints release tension only partially, remaining alert yet conserving energy. Hands are pressed to chests, feet tucked beneath, children cradled gently at the center. Every posture is designed for warmth, safety, and endurance. Thought drifts naturally. The night teaches without words. Lessons of patience, observation, and measured action are reinforced silently. You reflect on the day, the careful collection of resources, the micro-adjustments of movement, the coordination within the group, the strategies that allowed survival without haste or error. The cold, once a harsh teacher, becomes a companion in quiet reflection. It reminds you of limits, of careful management, of endurance. Even as the body rests, awareness persists. Every shiver, every minor discomfort, every sensation of cold is noted, processed, and accommodated. The mind and body collaborate silently. Children respond to the environment instinctively. They nestle into the warmth of those surrounding them. Small hands press into shared heat. Their breathing slows, rhythm matching the adults. Movement diminishes. The cluster becomes almost a single entity, sharing warmth and energy efficiently. Nightfall emphasizes contrast. Warmth versus cold. Stillness versus the faint tension of vigilance. The finite resources of energy against the infinite expanse of the environment. The mind observes, cataloging learning. Movement is minimal but precise. Posture is deliberate. Awareness is constant. Evening reflection is also preparation. The long night is inevitable. The body must retain what it has gained from careful feeding and minor activity. The mind must remain alert yet calm. The group must function as one organism, small movements reinforcing collective survival. Shadows grow darker. Wind picks up in small gusts, brushing against faces, tugging at clothing and animal skins. Embers flicker weakly in response, as if mimicking life itself. The group adjusts almost imperceptibly, leaning closer, sharing heat, pressing children toward warmth, hands moving slightly to redistribute energy efficiently. The rhythm of the body slows further. Muscles ease into controlled stillness. Joints remain partially engaged to resist stiffness. Shivering persists intermittently, a gentle reminder of vulnerability, quickly countered by subtle repositioning, shared warmth, and measured breath. Eyes, long accustomed to low light, perceive faint differences in tone and texture. Contours of ground, shapes of rocks, hints of distant terrain remain visible only because observation is careful and deliberate. The mind catalogs each subtle shift, preparing for decisions that may arise during the night. Reflection continues silently. You think of the first steps of the day, the careful movements through frost and wind, the patience required in gathering food and maintaining warmth. The memory of night without fire, of long hours in shared silence, informs current actions and posture. The past teaches, subtly guiding present decisions. Children, sensing the rhythm of adults, slow their breathing further, bodies relaxing into warmth. The group's collective stillness stabilizes the environment internally. Heat is shared. Energy is conserved. The body's metabolism adjusts. Muscles recover slightly, while remaining vigilant. Time becomes fluid. It stretches. Minutes blend into hours. The night ahead seems endless, yet the body is prepared to endure it. Observation continues silently. Breath is deliberate, measured. Energy is held in reserve. The cluster becomes almost a living sculpture of survival. Subtle shifts redistribute warmth. Hands press slightly to chests. Children move lightly toward heat. Bodies lean, curl, adjust. All action is minimal yet essential. The cold teaches restraint. Every movement costs energy. Every shiver is a signal. Every breath a reminder. The mind learns patience, observation, coordination, endurance. The body adapts, anticipates, persists. Nightfall deepens. The sky darkens further, leaving the world in shades of gray and muted blue. Shadows merge with frost-laden terrain. The wind hums gently, carrying sound, cold, and presence. The fire diminishes further, glowing faintly, embers casting soft warmth where most needed. You feel the quiet weight of survival. Reflection and preparation are intertwined. Every thought is tempered by the necessity of endurance. Every movement, no matter how small, is deliberate. Energy, warmth, attention, all are balanced. The first hours of night will pass slowly. The body folds further into stillness. The mind catalogs, anticipates, and maintains awareness. Children nestle, the group consolidates warmth, and survival continues in patient, silent rhythm. Nightfall, quiet reflection, and preparation for sleep are not leisurely. They are survival, measured, deliberate, patient, and persistent. The cold is a companion, the fire a fragile ally, and the body a careful instrument of endurance. The long hours ahead will demand everything, and you are ready. The night lingers long after the fire has dimmed to embers. Darkness is not an absence, but a presence, heavy and patient, stretching across the frost-covered ground, through the hollow spaces between rocks, and across the still bodies of those who have endured. It is not threatening with sudden violence. It simply is pressing against the fragile warmth humans carry within their bodies. Time seems slower here. Each breath is drawn deliberately. Each exhalation dissipates into the cold, unseen, a reminder of both life and vulnerability. Survival, when examined closely, is not dramatic. It is quiet, repetitive, and entirely dependent on attentiveness. It is the sum of micro-movements, measured gestures, shared warmth, and small decisions executed over and over again, without haste, without celebration. The passage of hours in these conditions is heavy, measured not by the sun, which cannot yet be seen, but by subtle internal cues. The slow return of warmth to frozen fingers, the steady rise and fall of a chest, the minute adjustments of posture that preserve life through the longest hours of darkness. You reflect on what has been learned. The night has taught restraint. The cold has imposed patience. The body has learned endurance. Even the mind, tempted to wander in fear or despair, has found a rhythm, an awareness tuned finely to small shifts in environment, wind, temperature, and a fragile balance of life maintained through cooperation. The fire, once a focal point, is now nearly gone. Its warmth lingers only in proximity, in those who press close to each other, sharing the heat their bodies produce. Children remain sheltered at the center of the circle, breathing softly, held in a cocoon of adult vigilance and shared responsibility. Adults, though weary, remain partially alert, monitoring micro-movements, listening for shifts in wind or distant sound that might signal danger or opportunity. Even the smallest acts carry meaning. A hand pressed to a child's shoulder, a foot nudging another slightly to preserve circulation, a subtle shift of body weight to allow warmth to flow more efficiently. The silent language of survival has become second nature, executed without thought, without hesitation. These gestures, though minor, carry the full weight of endurance, embodying lessons learned through countless cycles of cold, waiting, and restraint. Time continues, unbroken and indifferent. Minutes blend into hours. The rhythm of breath, warmth, and minimal motion defines the passage of night. There is no rush, no urgency, no expectation beyond endurance itself. And yet, within this stillness, life is preserved. Attention, patience, and coordinated effort ensure survival where chaos or impatience could not. Reflection deepens further. The passage of time, slow and deliberate, contrasts sharply with modern life. In contemporary existence, minutes are counted in tasks, achievements, deadlines. Here, in this primordial environment, hours are measured by survival, by warmth, by breath, by the slow, deliberate cooperation that allows life to continue without spectacle or reward. The difference is profound. Time feels heavier, more tactile, more meaningful, because it is inseparable from existence itself. The mind drifts naturally through memory and observation. The lessons of day and night intermingle. The cautious first steps taken at dawn, muscles stiff and bodies reluctant. The patience required during long hours of stillness. The subtle coordination of movement to conserve energy. The careful sharing of warmth during evening meals. The micro-adjustments made instinctively to maintain life. Each memory reinforces understanding. Each reflection strengthens awareness. Each observation guides the next moment. Evening and night repeat endlessly, each cycle teaching anew. The cold is persistent, yet not cruel. It is impartial. Its lessons are learned not through pain alone, but through careful observation, endurance, and the quiet repetition of actions that preserve life. The frost, the wind, the dim light, all are instructors shaping awareness, patience, and the rhythm of survival. Children, the most vulnerable, absorb these lessons silently. They watch, they imitate, they learn. Movement, posture, attention, and patience are taught not through instruction, but through example, through shared rhythm, through careful observation. The knowledge that survival depends upon subtlety, restraint, and coordination becomes innate. Even their breathing matches the quiet, deliberate cadence that defines the group's endurance. The body itself is a constant teacher. Muscles remember the stiffness of stillness. Joints note the slow recovery of movement. Hands and feet record the shifts between warmth and cold. The rhythm of metabolism and breath encode the lessons of endurance, subtly guiding actions, conserving energy, and maintaining life. Every micro-movement carries significance, each small adjustment reinforcing survival. Night is not empty. It is dense, heavy, and instructive. Time is a companion, not a measurement. The passage of hours is felt, not counted. Moments expand and contract according to awareness, effort, and necessity. The perception of duration is tied to survival itself. How long warmth is retained, how slowly the body expends energy, how attentively the mind monitors the environment. Reflection continues on the inevitability of human limitations. Even with careful coordination and patient endurance, bodies are vulnerable. Energy is finite. Heat is fleeting. The night is indifferent. Yet within these constraints, there is mastery, not of nature, but of self. The knowledge that patience, observation, restraint, and coordination can preserve life provides a subtle, profound sense of agency. The cold emphasizes humility. The darkness enforces awareness. The wind enforces vigilance. Survival is not triumph. It is quiet, incremental, and persistent. It is found not in dramatic action, but in repeated attention to small, deliberate gestures. It is the sum of countless choices made with precision, patience, and care. Shared presence is critical. The human cluster, bodies aligned, warmth exchanged silently, mirrors the natural interdependence that ensures continuity. Children at the center, adults surrounding, all attentive yet still. Even micro-adjustments in posture reinforce life, redistribute warmth, conserve energy. The act of being together, quiet and deliberate, is as essential as fire or food. Night extends indefinitely. Embers fade. Wind persists. The cold presses at the edges. Yet life continues, preserved in rhythm, patience, and careful coordination. Every breath is significant. Every shift matters. The smallest gestures carry weight beyond their apparent scale. Reflection deepens further. Modern safety, convenience, and abundance obscure understanding of endurance. The slow, deliberate passage of time in these conditions teaches what contemporary life often conceals. Survival is not about speed, heroism, or spectacle. It is about attention to detail, awareness of limits, restraint, and shared presence. It is about observing, adjusting, conserving, and persisting without urgency. The lessons are subtle yet profound. As night progresses, fatigue blends with awareness. Muscles ache lightly. Joints protest softly. The mind cycles between observation and meditation. Children breathe evenly. Adults maintain posture and warmth. The rhythm of survival continues, patient, deliberate, and unbroken. Memory and observation intertwine. Every small movement, every careful adjustment, every shared warmth, every moment of deliberate stillness is cataloged. Lessons are internalized. Future nights, future challenges, future endurance are informed by these repeated patterns. The quiet passage of time teaches awareness, patience, and subtle coordination as effectively as fire or food. Even as the long night continues, there is no panic, no dramatization, no urgency beyond the need to endure. The group remains a single, silent organism, aware of limits, attentive to small cues, sharing warmth, and preserving energy. Time itself becomes a teacher, and the night a canvas upon which the slow, deliberate practice of survival is enacted. The hours stretch and fold upon themselves. Muscles relax, shift, and adjust in imperceptible cycles. The mind continues reflection, quiet observation, and anticipatory planning. The cold persists, but life persists alongside it. The rhythm of endurance is constant, measured, unbroken. In this quiet, reflective night, the human experience becomes elemental. There is no heroism, no spectacle, no urgency. There is only presence, awareness, patience, and endurance. The cold, the darkness, the wind, and the earth enforce lessons that cannot be forgotten. Survival is not dramatic. It is deliberate. It is repetitive, slow, attentive, and persistent. It is measured in micro-gestures, subtle warmth, careful breathing, and collective vigilance. The night will pass, as all nights do. Survival will continue, as all survival does. The body will endure, the mind will remain attentive, the group will function as one organism. Time will stretch, fold, and bend according to awareness and attention. And when dawn eventually arrives, it will do so quietly, subtly, without ceremony. Yet everything learned, everything internalized during these hours will carry forward, embedded in movement, thought, and collective memory. Survival, in its purest form, is patience. It is observation. It is endurance through repetition, quiet, and restraint. The passage of time itself becomes both challenge and teacher, every moment weighted by its role in maintaining life. And in this quiet reflection, the human spirit persists, unnoticed, undramatic, yet enduring with absolute resilience.